Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play Nova in Warframe. There are two main ways of playing Nova. There is the Slova build, and there's also the Speedfa build. Both are modded for in completely different ways, but there are a few rules to modding for either of the builds. So for example, on the Slova build, you have to hit at least 145% power strength to get that 75% slow on the enemies, where with the Speedfa build, you're actually modding for negative power strength, so that's power strength below 100% to speed the enemies up. That was actually a bug, but they decided to keep it in the game as a feature because it kind of made Nova unique and opened up like a completely different play style or different use, which for example, could be like, oh, I want to farm things faster, like Plastid. So if I'm speeding the enemy mobs up in the likes of, let's say, a defense where there's a set number of spawns, then I can farm Plastids really efficiently because I'm speeding the enemies up. They're dying quicker. They're dying to my AoE teammate, like Equinox or whatever, and then we're just killing more in a very short period of time. Where if the Slova build, it's more like, I want to do like a very long and hard defense or survival, so I need the enemies to be slowed so then they don't cause that much trouble whenever I'm trying to jump around and dodge bullets and stuff like that. So she's a great CC frame, but she's also a great damage dealer, and with these builds that I'm going to show you guys, every single ability can still be used. So your first ability for the damage reduction, that can still be used. Your second ability for the damage dealing can still be used. Your third ability for the mobility can still be used. But of course, they're going to work in kind of different ways. They're not going to be as effective if, let's say, you're trying to use antimatter drop on the Speedfa build. Like, it's not going to deal that much damage. It's going to deal a lot less, but it's still going to be useful because you're going to have like the upside of more range. So it's like a low level nuker type of ability, I guess, at that point. But yeah, just before I show the builds, keep in mind these are my builds. This is how I like the mod. I will be using an Umbra build for the Slova, but I will show you guys a regular build like with no Umbra mods after that as well. So like I mentioned, with the power strength, you need to have at least 145%. So with this Umbral build, what I'm able to do is I can combine Umbral Intensify and Umbral Vitality together with one another so I can get 155% power strength. So if I were to remove Umbral Vitality, you see that my strength dips down to 144% instead of the 155% that it was prior to removing Umbral Vitality, right? And that's because whenever you throw on another Umbral mod, it increases the stats of the Umbral mods that you have equipped. So if I were to throw on Umbral Steel Fiber right here, you know, it would go from being 110 to 137 because I have Umbral Intensify equipped, and vice versa. This is now sitting at 44. Whenever I put on Fiber, it's sitting at 55. So if I go ahead and equip that and we get my Vitality back, you can see it does the exact same thing, 440 up to 550. And that takes us up to a total of 850 health, which is pretty awesome. And then we have our 55% extra power strength on here, which is really cool as well, because that puts us well over the 145% minimum power strength that we need for that 75% slow on our M Prime, right? Normally, if you're building this type of build and you don't have the Umbral mods maxed out, this is the type of build that you would be looking at, right? So you combine Intensify plus Power Drift to get 145% exactly, and you don't go over that because you're really only modding for the damage of your 1, your 2, and your 4 at that point. And in my opinion, the damage is kind of negligible, so it's not really worth modding for that much. And then you just throw the rest into duration. So that's a trend in both the builds. You see that we have Augur Message, Constitution, Prime Continuity, now reminded for our duration, and then it's the same on our config C, and then we throw the rest into basically survivability. So we'd have our Vitality for our health, we'd have Streamline for cast and efficiency, so we can cast our abilities for a lot less, Prime Flow on for our extra energy, and then we'd have our Aura mod on. Now this is 110% personal preference. I just like Crisp Projection because it reduces the armor. And then with the Umbral build, you have an extra Exilus slot to mess around with. Now you can put basically anything you want on here. You can maybe make some compromises, have a little bit less duration or less energy to put on a more effective Exilus mod. It's really down to the player. I just like Mobilize because it just makes you that little bit faster. If you happen to have a Peculiar mod, you could actually go ahead and run that because that can fit in there quite nicely as well. So whenever I do a crit crit on an enemy, then a flyer grows out of them, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's just one of those builds which is very, very flexible. But on your config C, you can't do that. You need to have your Pyro Drift on there. Otherwise, you're only going to get like 160% slow. Or is it 150? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like that. I think it's 160. 160, I think it is. Let's just go ahead and check. Let's see. Am I right or am I wrong? Not 160, but 60%. 60% slow. So, yeah, I was right. Technically, I guess. If I didn't mess up saying 160, I would be right. But whatever, that's besides the point. So, yeah. Well, this build, you have your 145% power strength, your 75% slow, which is awesome. And it's just a matter of pressing 4. Now, a common misconception with Nova is that range actually affects kind of the area that her M prime covers. Now, that's not true. So what I want to show you here is the radius stat. Okay, so the radius stat right now is sitting at 96.8 meters, and that's basically the area that our M prime is going to cover once we cast it. So what happens is Nova's going to do like a slam on the ground, and from the point of contact, a big like circle is going to expand from where you casted your ability, and it's going to sweep that radius right there, right? So that's actually affected by your power duration rather than your power range, okay? And that's why it's so high right now. So if we were to go ahead and we were to remove our Now Reminded, you'd actually see that that would dip down to 67.1, right? So that is a very easy way to check, you know, what stat affects what stat, or what mods affect what stat. So yeah, just to clear any common misconceptions with that, it is definitely 110% what's it called, power duration that affects the area that your M prime covers instead of power range, because I see so many people talking about that and it's like, it's so wrong, it blows my mind. But yeah, you have your slow, which is sitting at 75%, your explosion damage sitting at 1.2k, your explosion radius being 3.4 because we don't have a high we don't have any range mods on. We have our duration, which is the duration that the M prime is going to expand, so it's going to expand for 18 seconds. And then we have the effect duration, so how long an enemy is going to stay primed for, sitting at 91.8. Okay, so that is basically it. Your Null Star, Antimatter Drop, Wormhole are all going to be awesome on this build as well. So Null Star, for every orb you have active, is going to give you 5% damage reduction, so 18 times 5, and that can go all the way up to 90%. Antimatter Drop, which is just, again, a very cool ability. I recommend bringing a shotgun with Nova, by the way, because what you can do is you can actually shoot this to store damage inside it to make it deal even more damage, which we'll demonstrate in a second. And then we have Wormhole, which we can use to teleport, which makes her a very mobile frame as well. Nova is just kind of one of those frames which is really, really good for like helping newer players because of like the effects that she has on all surrounding mobs type of thing, and how offensive / defensive she can kind of be. So yeah, that was the M Prime slow build. Now moving on to the speed build. It is more or less the exact same thing, except you're modding for negative power strength, right? So we throw an overextended in here as to negate our power strength and give us a little bit more range, and then we basically do the same thing. So Augur Message, Constitution, Prime Continuity, Now Reminded for our duration, Prime Flow for our energy, Vitality for our health, Streamline for our efficiency, and the overextended is just on there to negate that power strength, right? Then your Aura mod is up to you, and then you have your Exilus, which again is up to you. I just like throwing on Cunning Drift on here. You could throw on, I don't know, anything would really fit in there. It's really down to you. Escape Velocity, whatever, even though the effect of that would be pretty small because you have low power strength, but you know, basically anything. I just like throwing on Cunning Drift because I like using my Antimatter Drop with this build to kind of just like make a big explosion and like nuke low level enemies, because we don't have a lot of power strength. The damage that deals is actually super low, so it only deals 79. So you're really relying on the damage that you put into it to kind of carry it. So it's a nice low level killer, and it's nice for speed running through those low levels, but I wouldn't really use the speed Nova build unless I'm doing something like farming in a defense mission, right? Because otherwise it just, in my opinion, is not really worth it. But other than that, bring a shotgun. Any shotgun I'll do. Well, I'll even use the Heck just for demonstration purposes because it's like one of the most accessible shotguns in the game. And I'll show you how to use it. This is the build that I'm using. Charged Shell Contagious Spread, Toxic Barrage for your elements, Blaze for more damage, Point Blank for more damage, Hell's Chamber for more damage, Seeking Fury for punch through and reload speed, Scattered Justice for multi-shot, which is awesome, and then the other ones don't really matter too much. So if we go ahead and we jump into a defense, let's go ahead and do the one in the Void, for example, Belinus. What we're basically going to be doing is we're going to be sticking near the pod, and then whenever we feel like it, we're going to press 4, and it's going to slow down literally every single enemy. So use our wormhole to get there faster, like so. Use our Zeneric to go ahead and get some energy. And then whenever we get like 70 energy, we can cast our M Prime. So if we go ahead and we hit 4 right now, you'll see this little wave. And once this wave passes this enemy right here, he gets primed. Okay, so he has that stuff coming out of him. He's slowed by 75%. He's going to take a little bit more damage. And whenever we kill him, he's going to explode. If there's any enemies that are also primed near an enemy that you kill that is primed, it's going to make a chain reaction. So check this out. So they die. They make like a chain reaction of explosions, and it's super cool. So all you have to do is keep on pressing your 4th ability whenever you see enemies that aren't, what's it called, primed, and then it's going to prime them again. So you can't spam it. So I can't just press 4 and then press 4 again. What's going to happen is that's going to reset the already casted M Prime back to like the initial sort of casting zone. So if that one's still expanding, but if I press 4, okay, let's go ahead and get some energy before we attempt that again. So that's got 12 seconds left to expand, but if I press it again, it resets it back to 18. So it kind of just resets it. So you can't spam it. You have to, you know, wait for the duration to run out and then press it again. So cast it every 18 seconds, and then that way you're going to keep all the enemies slowed as much as possible. And then also using your 1st ability for that damage reduction, so your 18 times 5, which is going to give you your damage reduction amount. And then you also have your antimatter orb, which you're going to cast that, shoot into it, and then direct it to a surface using your crosshair, and it's going to make all the enemies within the power radius explode. So go ahead, shoot it, stick it to a surface, boom, and the enemies are gone. And then that is basically how you play Nova with a slow build. And then the same goes for a speed build, right? You do more or less the exact same thing, except you're speeding the enemies up so you can kill them in like a defense mission with like a Czar or something. So that is basically it. That's how you play Nova. I hopefully covered all the common misconceptions whenever it comes to building around M Prime and stuff like that. But those are the main 2 builds that you would use for Nova. Of course, there's other builds out there like an antimatter drop build, you know, speedrunning builds with wormhole and escape velocity, etc. But this one was just made to sort of cover M Prime and the main use of Nova and what most casual players are going to do with her. But other than that, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.